In my family, I have 6 children. My oldest daughter didn't have the chance to go to school. My second, a boy who is not studious, prefers to succeed me and take care of the goats and yaks. Do you know how to write? No, I forgot. And reading? Also forgot. Really? Forgotten everything? Yes, I forgot everything. I have great hopes for the 4 youngest. I only hope they go far enough in their studies. It is necessary for the children to study if they want to succeed in life.
In the beginning of this century and of the millennium, the family of Tashi Palgor is at a crossroads. A vital change to the image of all the nomad breeders of the high plateaus of the Indian Ladakh is in progress. Will a 1,000-year tradition be perpetuated, or will it become extinct? The nomads, until today, have traversed space and time in accordance with an immutable linear route. Certain of their trajectory, they find themselves suddenly seized by doubt, projected onto a path which has become unexpectedly chaotic, with an uncertain horizon to the future. A young generation divided. On the one hand, those who have the good fortune and the possibility to study, like Tashi Dolma and Sengye, and on the other, the misfortunate like Karma, 20 years old, who missed the opportunity for a better future after 3 years of pointless study. And Kelsang Shodon, 25 years old, the elder, the sacrificed, too precious to be of assistance to her mother. For Tashi Dolma, 14 years old and the youngest, as for 3 of her brothers and sisters, all hopes are permitted. A large family, they are Tibetans exiled in India for about 40 years now, after the Chinese invasion of Tibet in 1950. Tashi Dolma goes to school 90 miles from her home in Shoglamsar, very near to Leh, the capital of Ladakh. At the center of this village, which has more than 3,000 Tibetans, there is another village, an institution entirely apart, composed of children. For 8 years, she is submerged in this throng of more than 1,000 students from age 4 to 18 years old. An institution which survives thanks to international aid, where all the children have a godmother or godfather in 4 corners of the world. On the high plateaus, the Chung Tong, 5 hours along the road from Leh and 5,000 feet higher in elevation, time seems suspended and has the fragrance of eternity. Blotty, in a valley of about 16,000 feet, a tiny, fragile campsite awakens in the hollows of the Grand Himalaya. The nomad shepherds begin a new day focused on the animals, each similar to the first, identical to the next, to infinity. Nomad life, freed from time and space, so coveted, dreamed of, fantasized by the crowds who live minute to minute and in compact space. And yet, In Leh, the habitual surroundings of Tashidoma, time elapses very differently. In the capital, which has 20,000 inhabitants, the 21st century has arrived unannounced. In one generation, it has passed from the era of caravans and yaks to the era of four-wheel drive convoys with its parade of inconveniences. Evolution, or rather revolution, where one is forced to keep up. A frenzy of construction, of consumption, as if to catch up to something they don't know why. At Ladakh, ancient kingdom of 25,000 square miles, the first route opened up back in 1960 because of a border conflict with China. The tourists didn't appear until 1974. Here, like elsewhere, they have taken the train of globalization in full throttle. From the stroke of dawn, Palki Dolma, the first to rise, has already her hands in ice water, even in the heart of summer. 7 a.m., it's milking time. Tashi Palgor attaches the animals in a beautiful tangle of horns. Herds that with their rhythm will punctuate the shepherd's day, even accelerate it, since they do it only with their heads. Observed more closely, the beauty of the Himalaya pale in comparison with the ruggedness of the nomad condition. Kelsang Shodun, who has come back into the family tent after an unhappy marriage, works tirelessly alongside her mother, a little more than 50 years old, and often complains of being exhausted, and for good reason. Waking at 6 a.m., she works before breakfast. The earlier the milking is done, the more time, the more profitable the day for bringing the animals to pasture. Milk production, along with the confection of butter and cheese, is barely enough to cover the needs of the family. Near 8 a.m., it's Karma who takes over. Lunch fastened to the back of a goat, he's gone off on a long journey through mountains and valleys. 10, maybe 15 miles are on the day's program to secure nourishment for a herd of 300 goats and sheep, while yaks and horses are left free to roam. Nearly 16,000 feet higher, the grass is quite bare, dry as straw, with loose rock everywhere. Almost every day, the itinerary changes. The bigger the herd, the more different routes to take to avoid depleting the soil. The Samet camp has about a dozen exiled Tibetan families here, less than 60 miles from their native Tibet, colonized by China. Nearby, some 20 Ladakh Pa shepherds' tents who generously accept to share their meager pastures and sources of water with them.
After a year of work, each animal produces 10 to 14 ounces of pashmina wool, and we can get $8 for the sale. You can't get much from a yak except its milk and use it for a rucksack, nor from a sheep because the wool is not as sought after as goat's wool. The wool and the milk are the only income for the nomads.
Thus, the family can gross an income of about 4,000 euros per year in the best of circumstances.
In my case, I have to buy feed for the winter. To feed my cattle, I need 2 tons of feed and 3 tons of grain. That's why we are obliged to feed the animals in the winter. At the Tibetan school of Shaglamsar, a new day of studies begins in mid-August. In the Himalaya, the big holidays are put off till winter since it's cold. They walk around the great shotin, symbol of Buddhist spiritual awakening, or around the large prayer wheel, which turns on the way to school. Up from 6 a.m., both young and old have a busy schedule. The day begins with 1 hour of study. For the younger children, it starts with prayer. Buddhism, a philosophy without a dogma rather than a religion, daily pervades their thoughts and actions. Before classes begin, the students themselves do the cleaning. Very young, they are already in the school of life. Tashi Doma is one of those highly motivated students who want to have a better life, less harsh. But being a nomad girl, she lacks the means of support and points of reference, as Thupten Nurzin, one of the school secretaries, acknowledges.
Not much difference between the children from the Tibetan refugee camps here, as well as the refugee camps from jungle regions. But the only difference is that most of the jungle regions, their parents didn't go to formal education. So they can't guide children properly, especially line in the education. Children who came from Changtang, they can meet 2 times in a year. That is only summer season and long winter season. So most of the time they remain in the village school. So they are quite far away from their parents. And of course, children need parents very close to. That is very important for them. This is also a little bit problem for them.
In this class, already the courses are given in English, the first foreign language they learn. Daughter of nomad shepherds, the modern technologies are not foreign to her. Like her classmates, she knows how to use the software and the mouse. The students have computer classes twice a week, sometimes less, since power cuts are frequent. In this way, with her knowledge of the complexity of the world, she will be better equipped than her parents to take her destiny into her own hands. Today is a holy day for the Tibetan community, as well as Ladakh Pa, clad in their finest traditional apparel, as well as their welcoming katas. They receive His Holiness the Dalai Lama in person. He has come to give teachings of wisdom as he does around the world. Winner of the Nobel Peace Prize and one of the great sages of our time, he represents the absolute for the Tibetans, for whom he is their current spiritual leader. Living in India since 1959, he represents 180,000 of his fellow countrymen. The family of Tashi Palgor, like many nomads of the Changtang, will absorb the words of their guide. Widespread traffic jams converge from all of Ladakh by car or by special bus, leaving in the middle of the night just not to miss this event. During 3 days, almost 30,000 faithful will drink from the very source of wisdom itself, and an awareness universally recognized. The Dalai Lama passes on a message of peace and truth as it has always been passed on from master to disciple for 2,500 years since the enlightenment of the historic Buddha.
So if the Buddha will, so there's a possibility for us to become enlightened. If the Buddha will, right, someone who is free from the afflictions and all the faults right from the beginning.
Coming back to the Changtang, the life of the shepherds has retaken its course, in a little lighter tone, perhaps, after such an encounter. The milking completed, and the animals back out to pasture, Palki Dolma will take care of the home. She lights the fire in a very modest stove, a simple box made of metal, fueled with undergrowth and yak dung. In one corner, as a supplement, a gas stove, a real improvement. She heats up the milk before transforming it to butter, yogurt, or dried cheese. Butter whipped at length in a goat skin, which requires a lot of energy. She hustles about without stopping under very Spartan-like conditions, devoid of any comfort, even seated on stony ground, barely protected by a threadbare mat. Seen and lived from the inside, the romanticism of the nomadic life commonly conveyed quickly loses its luster. The majesty of the grand Himalaya conceals well many difficulties. Not far away, under a bright sun, Kelsang Shodun gets down to doing laundry near a thin stream that runs through the camp, a creek, often dry. In this country, the winter is terrible with the snow and the cold. The biggest challenge for the nomads is winter from December to May due to storms and poor pasture. Man and beast can be decimated. Everything is difficulty in the life of the nomad. Without end, we must change camp to find new pastures. Of all the refugee communities, the nomads have the hardest existence. Palki Dolma works up the provision of chapati for the day, a flat bread without salt or yeast, while her daughter drives the herds into the mountains. She must deal with the housework alone. Sparing with words, all her energy is focused on the essentials. Only after these vital tasks are completed can she devote herself to those of a more religious nature. Refill the sacrificial cups with water on the altar to the Buddha, and rekindle the flame of her beliefs. She can finally take a few minutes for a beauty makeover, though quite modest. Lengthening the tresses of her natural locks, Tibetan style. In this faraway Changtang not so long ago, there were no cars, solar panels, or gas stoves. Today we can say that the life of the nomad has slightly improved. Now we have cars, gas stoves, and solar panels. As the world goes faster and faster, the nomads also use vehicles, second-hand of course, to make life easier. Over the past 10 years or so, technology has made its way even to here. Material goods that make daily life much easier if you have the means, of course. The solar panels permit them to have light, whereas before they were smoked out of the tent using a nauseating oil lamp, a source of lung disease. As for the car, Palki Doma, to be practical, uses it as a dryer for cheese. In Shoglamsar, at 4 p.m., it's the end of the school day. Tashi Doma returns to his abode, lodging for about 300 residents. 20 or so small houses nestled in nature, there where a desert of stones stood 30 years ago. Each shelters about a dozen children from 5 to 15 years old, put under the direction of the Ama La, their second mother. Sacks and uniforms barely set aside, the school children pass on to the housework. The school of life after a day of studies. No maintenance staff here. They play already in the schoolyard of the adults, and in good humor. From 14 years old, Tashi Doma will supervise those younger than her. Thus, the elder develop already their sense of responsibility. Even though there's not much room, they maintain flower beds and even vegetable patches that will bring improvement to the ordinary. If lunch is taken at the canteen, their evening meal will be taken at home. Meal they make themselves, just like the grown-ups. This evening, it's Tashi Doma who serves the meal. Before eating, they do not forget the prayer offering to the deities. The stomach full at 6 p.m., they go back to their studies. It's time for homework. The Ama not present. It's Lobsang, the eldest of the house, who takes charge of supervision with conviction. Model children's villages where young and old flourish in the best of conditions. Today is the day of commemoration, day of remembrance. It's 50 years now that the Tibetans live as refugees in India. March 1959 marks the beginning of exile, of the dramatic flight across the Himalaya of tens of thousands of Tibetan victims of the Chinese invasion in 1950, victims of their oppression, of their torture. an occupation marked by nearly 1 million deaths and the destruction of almost all the monasteries. Presently, there are nearly 200,000 scattered throughout India and the rest of the world without much hope of returning, isolated and in face of an international community that has forgotten them. The national flag was hoisted with pride, and all the more so since it is forbidden in their native land by the occupier. The ceremony winds down with a vibrant tribute to India for their unwavering capacity of welcome for half a century. Meanwhile, at the camp near the end of summer, an important puja, a religious ceremony, takes place. During 2 weeks, the day will be punctuated by calls to the deities. The prayer wheels will turn to infinity, breaking the usual monotony. The Ladakh women for this occasion set out the heavy reptilian perak headdress studded with turquoise, coral, amber, and silver, treasure that is passed on from mother to daughter. Tashi Palgor's family are obviously followers. They spend 3 to 4 hours daily in prayer while taking tea. A puja that allows the two communities, Ladakh and Tibetan, to be together in the same fervor, the same faith, since they worship the same spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama. In the very back of a small tent, some young monks are leading the puja. The last day will see even the presence of a Rinpoche, a highly esteemed master teacher from a distant monastery, a true blessing for the people who will not begrudge him his fervor. Beginning of September, the short Himalayan summer is already drawing to a close. The nomads set up camp the way they do 7 or 8 times a year in search of new pastures. The dismantling of the tents is rapid. Their meager material goods are quickly rounded up and fit into a vehicle that is used only in a case of necessity. The price of gasoline is dissuasive. The yaks, formerly essential for transport, are now reduced to the status of unemployment. The shepherds do not go very far, 20 or 30 miles at most, following a route on a yearly basis. In 2 days, they will find a new promised land for their cattle, their only wealth, which motivates every instant of their wandering life. "6 months have passed. We're back for the winter. What has become of them?" With apprehension, we get ready to confront the rigors of the Himalaya as we fly over its snow-covered chains. An airplane, the only means of transportation, since the 2 routes of access to Ladakh are closed for 5 interminable months. Winter without snow for the moment. The country is dry, but with a chilling cold at this beginning of December. It's with pleasure that we find our friends again in this children's village of Shoglamsar. What had been the fun of last summer has become the chores of winter. Fortunately, the sun comes out shining generously. The big vacation time is coming. Also, an all-out wash, clean, and paint job is in order. They appropriately warm up for the occasion. Unlike us, the beginning of December marks the end of the school year, a 3-month break before things start up again in March. Necessity makes the law. In fact, they don't have the means to heat the classrooms, even as the temperature is around 10 degrees below zero. In these circumstances, the schools are closed. In Tashi Dolma's house, it's also the big winter cleanup before closing. The children get busy so joyously. The nearness of their vacation probably has something to do with it. A vacation where they will join their parents, whom many have not seen in 6 months. In the kitchen, Tashi Dolma and her friends get busy. She tries, without much success, to cook chapati in oil. But before being released, the students must still pass the final exam that will largely determine their passage to the next grade. The sun shows up on time. It's in the courtyard where they'll get down to work, for it's not as cold as it is inside. It's today that the children from the high plateaus go home. One last wash in acceptable climatic conditions. High up there in freezing temperatures, it will be reported as quite an achievement. Sacks all packed, they leave school without regret to rejoin their parents. It's only 2 times a year that the nomad children get back to their camps, a family rupture more or less well lived through from the age of 6. The trip will be by bus, 5 or 6 hours, for a journey of at least 100 miles. Superb road, radiant sunshine, the holidays announce themselves under the best of auspices. We have stopped at no more than 15,000 feet because of construction work for widening the road. Permanent maintenance of the route still under the control of the Indian Army. Then the crossing of the pass at 17,500 feet. The Talong La, the second highest pass suitable for vehicles in the world. It's lucky that it's not still blocked off because of snow. Scattered throughout several camps and difficult to spot, it will only be at night that the lucky find their family. Tashi Dolma will not find her parents till the following day, moving into new pastures on the banks of the Tso Kar, a lake more than 15,000 feet higher. Winter, like summer, they live in the tent. We arrive at a period so dreaded by the shepherds, terrible winters even for them, for they do not get used to permanent cold. 10 degrees below zero during the day, 30 to 35 below at night, for a period of 3 to 4 months. To finish, Tashi Palgor installs the mast of prayer flags. The demons are defeated, the gods are victorious, he cries, to give favor to the deities. At the same time, one must still and always take care of the animals. In winter, there's only the yaks to be milked. Goats and sheep give almost no more milk because of the poor quality and the rarity of the greenery. In addition, there are quite a number of little ones to feed. Less work, certainly, but also much less milk, so essential to their nutritional balance. The aridity and the cold of the Chung Tong explain the absence of snow, which helps the shepherds pass easily. Finally, almost the entire family finds itself in the tent around a nice, welcoming meal. Tashidoma and Sangye, her older brother, separated throughout the school year, find each other again. They have many things to tell their parents. Kelsang Shodun listens while she prepares the chapati. For the occasion, we'll even have the right to eat yak meat, widely consumed in the winter for lack of green vegetables. One more unbalanced diet. Palkidoma churns up the gurgur chai, a traditional Tibetan tea with added butter and salt. They consume several dozen cups a day. Apart from rice, the staple food is the traditional tsampa, roasted barley flour that they consume with added tea. All during summer, they have stocked up on yak dung in the winter animal pen. They have to free up the space they will now occupy. Impressive reserves that will not be too much, however, during the next 2-month stay for survival in these places. They'll have only this fuel to keep warm. In winter, it's the men who are in charge of fetching water, and for good reason. The Tso Kar, clear blue during summer, is frozen for nearly 3 feet. Ice that will have to be thawed out and heated since fuel is so precious. Lake which attracts wildlife, birds of course, kyong, a sort of mule, wolves, and even snow leopards, a species increasingly rare. This morning, Tashi Palgor has found a dead kid goat which froze during the night at less than 30 degrees. For the shepherds, it's a heavy loss, their survival depending on it. He will end up in the teeth of the dogs who during the night watch over the herds threatened by wolves and hungry snow leopards. The dogs, elsewhere occupied, some goats, as if to get revenge, take advantage and finish the abandoned mess tins. All joking aside, it's necessity here that makes the law. The cold reigns supreme. It is cold day and night and day, both outside and inside. When life for the nomad breeders becomes survival, when the nomad dream turns into a nightmare. The herds have returned. They have traveled again a dozen miles for a meager pittance. Needless to milk the herd in these conditions. Packed together, it's like this they will better endure the cold polar night. It's moreover now in the bitter cold that the goats take on their full value in covering oneself with a fine down pashmina, the legendary silky wool known as cashmere, the main source of income for the community. The cold hasn't only inconveniences. An interminable night falls on the Changtong. The danger lurks, but the dogs keep watch. Curiously, during the night, the thermometer rose up sharply. The sky became overcast. The snow invited itself. The family tent too crowded, Karma spent the night under the stars. Damp and rude awakening.
Good morning.
Good morning.
More than the cold, it's especially the snow that the shepherds fear most. If it is heavy, the herds will be decimated, die of hunger, unable to get their food under the frozen sheet of ice. Fortunately, the snowfall was light. The shepherds are already underway for a long-day quest for improbable pastures. The snow will melt rapidly in the sun. Relatively calm, the children profit by playing cricket. It must be said that the sport is king in India, probably the highest cricket turf in the world.
Today, with the rise in temperature, they will even be able to collect running water after having broken the sheet of ice which protects it from freezing. The water supply point, however, situated about a mile from the camp, a real place for encounters. Tashidoma and Sangye, the intellectuals of the family, don't hesitate to lend a hand. Mutual assistance is vital in a hostile environment. Reunited for a few weeks, Kelsang Shodun and her sister are likely to have very different futures. In the tent, the temperature is in the negative, outside the perimeter of the fire. Palkidoma relights once more the flame of their beliefs on the altar where Buddha sits on his throne, and of course a photo of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. A frail flame burning to symbolize their own fragility in face of the ravaging elements of the Himalaya. We are nomads, and we know how to live and work only nomad style. In this poor country, to earn a living by raising livestock is too hard and backward. You can survive this way, but it is not an enviable life. The shepherds of Tashi Palgor's generation are born nomads. Nomads will disappear. Karma will be the one to take over, for Kelsang Shodun, who has friends in Leh, has just found a modest job as a vendor. For the four youngest, like those who have the opportunity to study, no one wants to live such an existence. And so, Tashidoma already considers the career of a nurse. Unlike his parents, Karma will be a shepherd of his time, for he can neither read nor write, and mechanics has no more hidden secrets for him. The world turns faster and faster, a feverish craze which disorients the old and even dizzies the livestock who lose contact with the terrain of the yaks. A tradition which until today hurried along slowly but smoothly, and according to the laws of nature, is in the process of changing its face so as not to disappear. Let's hope for Tashi Palgor and his people not to lose their authenticity, their human values, their sense of hospitality. A loss that would leave the roof of the world and the stay-at-home fantasies in a profound malaise.